Hi, everybody. So this is really exciting. We are here to talk all about our favorite movie musicals. We love movie musicals, and I'm joined by my friend Chelsea Robson. And you want to introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. My name is Chelsea Robson. I am a co host of the Animation Addicts podcast with the Rotoscopers, and I am also a singer on my own. And that's basically all you need to know about me.
Yeah, I was just thinking the last time we were podcasting together was for a musical of sorts
It was.
with Trolls. So what is your sort of experience with movie musicals? Is it something you watched a lot growing up, or were you a musical theater kind of buff?
I was always, okay, so I grew up always watching the animated movies, and they were always, in the 90s, they were all movie musicals. So that was the biggest input, um, the biggest thing in my life that came at that point. It was like, okay, movie musicals are definitely a thing, and they shall be your thing, and therefore Disney is there. So that was probably the major influence of me growing up. But also I was involved. I mean, my family is a very musical family, and so my mom always had me involved in like pageants where I had to have like some type of a talent. And so I was always a singer, and then I was always in musical theater like camps on the summertime. And so I feel like I have a very good wide range of knowledge about all of these, not just movie musicals, but musicals in general.
Mm.
So I'm really excited about this conversation.
Yeah, me too. I grew up, loving movie musicals. My parents aren't big into movies, but they had ones that they loved, and one of those was Sound of Music. Was one that
No, yeah.
watch a lot, and of course you got your Disney musicals. My dad loves Jungle Book, and
Okay.
particularly and Robin Hood are his two favorites. You don't like think of those as musicals, but they are, and
They are.
Poppins and things like that. And my parents are both very musical, but more into classical music, more into they're not into contemporary music very much.
Okay.
But yeah, I grew up, loving movie musicals, of course, Singing in the Rain, movies like that,
Hmm.
and then when I was, I don't know, 14, I I found out, kind of discovered Les Mis, and
Okay.
it really was like the first music that I ever really like became sort of borderline obsessed with. And I mean, I guess I'd had The Little Mermaid as a little girl, and that was very influential for me as a little girl. And but Les Mis was sort of the next step for me, and I knew every line to every song, and I got to see it on Broadway when I was 15, and that was just an amazing experience. And then in high school I got to be in several plays and musicals in our high school productions. I was in
Hmm.
Wiz, I was in Bye Bye Birdie.
Nice.
Yeah, and I was in Oklahoma, and then the last one they did was Little Abner. Which is pretty bad.
Very nice. No, I love Little Admiral.
Yeah. So I was never I was never I'm a terrible dancer. Like, no false modesty, I am really 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 bad. And so I could never have a lead in, in a musical. I think I have an okay voice, but I have no rhythm, so I can't be a lead. But I was very happy to just be in the crowd.
Nice.
So it was really fun memories. And so yeah, I do love musicals. I love show tunes, and I love yeah, movie musicals. So this can be a lot of fun. So we kind of divided up into three categories that we were going to talk about.
Uh-huh.
And we'd said era classic era, contemporary, not complete animation, and animated. And so let's talk about the classics first. And do you just want to list all of yours and then talk about kind of each of them, or
Sure.
okay?
Yeah. When we were talking about doing this episode, I was thinking, okay, there are too many, because at first we were thinking, oh, maybe we'll just do like the top five. And
Yeah.
then I was like, I can't just do top five. There's just too many.
Yeah.
And so and then even like ordering them, like, how do I put this one above that one? Oh, I can't. And so I decided that a good way of doing it would be like, okay, it's spring cleaning time, right? So if I had a box I have 3 boxes of my favorite movies, and I have to get rid of everything except for those 15. Okay,
Mm.
so this is my box. This is the box of ones that I'm going to keep. So of my classic era, I decided that Mary Poppins was one you cannot live without. You just can't.
Yeah.
My
Agreed.
Fair Lady also cannot live without that one. Fiddler on the Roof has just so much meaning to me,
Mhm.
and just in general, I can't live without that one. The King and I, also one that I just cannot live without, because I mean, Yul Brynner, man, come on now. And then The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
So The Wizard of Oz is one that everybody has to know. So that is my classic era box.
Yeah. I think that all of those would be on my list. I have a different list just because I knew you were talking about those. But all of those are just movies I could watch over and over and over again. I mean, I guess the only one that maybe hasn't aged as well for me is The King and I, just because when you think about, I love the music so much, but when you think about what actually is kind of happening, it's a little weird
It
because he's
is,
like
yeah.
this murderous so that's the only reason why I'm like, as an adult, I'm kind of like, oh, but I still like it. I still enjoy it. And yeah, Yul Brynner is the best in it. And it has those great Rodgers and Hammerstein songs, which I have a soft spot in my heart for Rodgers and Hammerstein, partly because nobody in modern, I feel, not nobody, but very rarely do you get really good soprano songs, I feel like, in modern Broadway. But with Rodgers and Hammerstein, their songs are all songs that I can sing pretty much. They're
Okay.
not all like deep and belt
Yeah.
and so I was like, I always love when I used to take voice lessons, I would sing a lot of the Rodgers and Hammerstein songs because they were just right in my range.
Nice. Nice. I
Yeah,
do like Rodgers and Hammerstein, and they have so many that it was really hard for me to choose just one.
yeah,
Like Carousel, Oklahoma, like all of these are fantastic.
yeah,
But I feel like, I don't know, they all have a bit of a tragic pull to them.
yeah.
Rodgers and Hammerstein just liked to do the tragedy type, and so that's the only thing that I was like, but still, I think it's just so classy.
Hmm.
And also the dresses. The dresses.
Yeah. I mean, Wizard of Oz is an interesting one because I think that it was just lightning in a bottle. Like, in my
Yeah.
opinion, every attempt that they've ever made to go back to Oz has just been really bad. It's just a
Yeah.
weird thing. It's like you think that they would be able to repeat some of those elements and make it like you wouldn't think it would be that hard, but there's been a bunch of different tries and different styles, and different things, and they've all been kind of awful in my opinion. And
Yeah.
I mean, just I love sort of the message of hope because "Over the Rainbow" is my favorite song, and
Okay.
I love it any version of it. I love it the
Yeah.
Hawaiian version of it. I love the Judy Garland version of it, and anything else. There's a great Nina Simone version of it. It's a real jazzy take. It's really good. I mean, just love that song and just the message of sort of hope and longing for something better than
Hmm.
than what you have. And you think 1939, like that must have been extra sort of poignant then, and it's just great on every level. I mean, when it changes, the black and white is beautiful. I love it. And when it changes to the color, it's so vibrant and beautiful. And I love all the performances. I think every single one of them is perfectly cast. And I love all of the songs.
Hmm.
Probably an unsung hero of that movie a little bit is how great the songs are.
Hmm. And it's really interesting to think about, but that is just like 20 years away from being completely public domain.
Yeah.
Which is like, whoa, I cannot believe that. I mean, that's for, I think about these things because I'm like, I always think of like, so if it's in the public domain means that I can do a cover of it and I don't have to like pay royalties on it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, for me, I'm like, that's awesome. But at the same time, I look at it from their point of view of like, dang it, I gotta hold on to these royalty checks. Oh, I got them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Well, and it's just, I guess I should say, I think Wicked is good. I like Wicked, but as far as movies, the movie returns have not been good. But yeah, you're right that it does make you kind of nervous that this beloved property, because it has been handled like people have tried. Like they have. It's not that they're putting out lazy work. They've been ambitious, but it just doesn't seem to work.
Right.
Like I hate Return to Oz. That movie like scarred me as a child.
It is really creeper with the Wheelers. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And The Wiz is, I mean, I loved it because I was in it in high school, but it's not good. The movie
Right.
at least is really bad. And then Legends of Oz, Dorothy's Return, the animated one, that was really bad. And then, although the only good thing about that movie is that's how I first found rotoscopers.
Oh yeah. Well, there you go.
I was looking for a review. I found more review, but anyway, and it's just an interesting thing. But I also love Fiddler on the Roof. You have that on your choice, and I think that's a great musical for people who don't like musicals. Because it's just kind of, it's a guy talking about his family, and like everybody has that sort of that grandpa figure who's sort of humming ditties around the house kind of a thing, I feel like. And that's what you get with Tevye. And so it feels really natural and authentic, and the songs are really beautiful. And so I love that one also.
I think that one for me is just so wonderful because of the sense of family.
Mm-hmm.
And like tradition, like my family has lots of traditions.
Yeah.
And so like, even when one of them dies, like the silliest of little traditions that could die, it's still like, oh, you mean we're not gonna like, hang up everybody's stocking along the fireplace? There's too many of us. What?
Yeah.
Like little things like that. It's just like, but that one has such a deep movie.
Well, yeah, and when he finally says there is no other hand, and when his the daughter that marries the Christian, like that's just a devastating moment for him and his character. And, yeah, it's really, really. But there's also really funny parts, like the the dream sequence.
Actually, little known fact is in one of my summer musical weekends, not a weekend, it was like a couple month long camps, but I got the part of Frumacera.
Oh no.
So I can still sing that song today. It's fantastic.
Nice. Well, man, all of yours, we could probably talk an hour about, not probably, we could definitely talk an hour about all of your picks, because I mean, Mary Poppins, oh my gosh, it's one of perfect movies, I think, just about perfect.
I agree.
Just like her.
It's practically perfect in every way.
Yeah, I mean, the lesson, I love movies about work and themes about like when are we overdoing it, when are we overworking, when are we like, where's that right balance between ambition and being overzealous, I guess.
Right.
And I love that theme, and it's actually really powerfully explored in Mary Poppins. And when he because he thinks, the dad thinks he is being such a great role model to his children.
Right.
And he learns through the course of the movie that he's like failing them, and it's such a devastating sort of experience. And when he's walking back to the bank and he sees like the woman feeding the birds, it's just like, oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah. It hits hard.
Yeah. And there's so many there's so much fun to be had too. It's just like it's got it all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So how do you feel about them doing this Mary Poppins Returns?
Oh, I don't know. I'm honestly afraid of every one of these sequels, every one of these, live
Yeah.
action remakes. I fear.
Yeah. Me too.
Honestly, I don't think it'll be horrible. I think they'll do a good job. They've got a good team behind it, but at the same time, I mean, I'll be honest, it is really, really hard to come up with an original idea that's
Yeah.
awesome. And so it's understandable why they keep going back to these known properties because it's so much easier
Yeah.
to, half the
I
work
mean,
is done for you.
at least it's not a remake, like we're not going to hear Spoonful of Sugar again or something like
Right.
that. But I actually wasn't a big fan of the Broadway retelling of Mary Poppins, and
Oh,
a lot
yeah.
of people loved it, but I don't know.
Was it closer to the book?
Yes, like they
That's
had
what
a bunch of different
I've heard.
characters and different scenes, and I don't know. I just didn't like it that much. It was fine, but I didn't love it. I should say that. And so I don't know. We'll see. We will see how it turns out. But um, anyway, so let's talk about some of the ones that I
Yes.
picked that you hadn't picked. I would certainly pick some of yours because I love My Fair Lady. I just love all of them that you picked. So good. But some other ones that I thought of is in the classic era is Sound of Music, West Side Story, Singing in the Rain, Calamity Jane, The Bells Are Ringing, and White Christmas.
I've never seen Calamity Jane. Tell me about it.
See, I'm a huge Doris Day fan. I love
Okay.
Doris Day, and it's really fun. You should check it out.
Well, tell me about it.
Yeah. Well, it's about Calamity Jane, obviously, and it's kind of similar to. Have you ever sseen Annie Get Your Gun?
Yes, I
Kind of
have.
similar to Annie Get Your Gun, but it has Howard Keel as um, uh, is Bill Hickok, and of course Calamity Jane is a big tough talker tomboy, kind of a thing, and but she's kind of secretly she's in love with this guy, and who's this like suave talking kind of marshal or whatever in the Dakotas, and anyway, there's sort of a little bit of a My Fair Lady kind of element to it, with this other girl who tries to help her be more like a lady so she can impress this guy, and then Bill Hickok's kind of watching from the sidelines during this all. And anyway, there's like jealousy, and he said the songs are really fun, and Doris Day is just bright, and she has a wonderful voice, wonderful
Mhm.
singing voice, and they have really good chemistry, her and Howard Keel, and yeah, check it out. It's really fun. And yeah, and Bells Are Ringing. I feel like that's one not that many people know about, but
Yeah, I don't know. What's that one?
It's got Judy Holliday and Dean Martin in it, and she plays a switchboard operator that for like a voice answering service.
Okay.
And so she collects people's messages, but she gets too involved in the people that she collects messages for, and like tries to help them, and she kind of falls in love with the Dean Martin guy, getting his messages and talking to him and whatever. And they end up meeting through various contrivances, but the songs are really fun. And you might have heard of one of the songs, "The Party's Over." It's like
How
someone.
does it? Do you know how it goes?
The party's over. The
I don't think
symbols
so.
looking, and I can't remember it all, but dream through the night. It seemed to be right just being with him. Now you must make up. All dreams must end.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never heard this one.
Oh yeah,
Look that up.
it's really cute, really cute. But yeah, and of course, White Christmas, we all know during the holidays, we watch that, and I love it. And Irving Berlin, his music, and you get those long practice sessions, that they used to have in musicals, they never do anymore.
Yeah.
Which are kind of self-indulgent, but I still enjoy them. You get the same thing in Singing in the Rain with the Broadway ballet sequence that you just never would have today. And I love that. Because I love dance, even though I'm maybe partly because I'm so terrible at it, I really enjoy it. And yeah, so and The Sound of Music is probably my top 10 favorite movies. It's probably not probably it is my favorite musical, and it is I think the best adaptation ever because they actually made the movie I think significantly better than the stage musical. They moved things around. They took out certain songs. They added new songs, and I think it is much better than the stage musical. So I think it is just a really, really great adaptation in that way.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what was the other ones that you had again?
West Side Story.
Ah, yes, West Side Story.
Mm-hmm.
That one, I was going to say that one just because there are so many fantastic songs in it, and it is a classic. And it is probably one of the things that changed movies in general was West Side Story, because it took the Romeo and Juliet and made it so it made it so current, but at the same time, the dance was just fantastic. You got Fosse in there. I mean, just crazy good.
Yeah.
And so there's so many good things to say about it. I am just, I don't know. I don't like tragedies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I understand. I can see that. It's not one it's not maybe the most rewatchable of all of these.
Yeah.
Because it is so melodramatic and so sad, but I still love it. And I love Stephen Sondheim's lyrics and are so good. Like,
Mm-hmm.
Puerto Rico, my heart's devotion, let you sink right into the ocean.
Yeah.
I love that. That's so good. And
Oh, Maria, Maria. No, that's not the right one.
yeah. So it's really good. They also move things around a little bit in that from the stage that I think works a lot better. Like in the in the stage version, they sing Officer Krupke at the right after the knife fight, which feels weird. It feels instead of I think they do it's called Cool or Stay Cool, whatever song in the movie. And I think that fits much better for after you've had this like dramatic moment to all of a sudden be singing this somewhat silly Officer Krupke song. Yeah. So I'd like that when they can actually make things better.
Right.
In the movie. Because you don't see that all that often.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about the contemporary, not animated.
Okay.
We'll end off with animated. So actually, I don't have that many on here.
Yeah, it was hard for me to fill out the contemporary list.
Yeah, it is because a lot of the ones that are really popular, I'm not that big a fan of because of because of the content and just because of like I'm not that big a Chicago fan. I'm not that big, right. Some of those things that other people really like. But and also we're talking about this, but also there are a number of them that I think are fine, but the singing is so bad that I can't really recommend it on as a recommendation. Like I think that Phantom of the Opera is fine, like it's watchable. I think that Mamma Mia is fine, it's watchable, but the singing is pretty bad in both of those movies, so I can't really recommend them. But
yeah. And it's funny, I was watching even like La La Land, which is huge right now, obviously. And I was watching it was the Honest trailer about it, and it was like, and the moment you have John Legend, which teaches us that it's easier to teach a singer to act than an actor to sing. Like, right. Yes. I completely 100% agree with this.
Yes.
The singing is it's such a different technique. And well, yes, you have like acting in and of itself is its own technique. So I'm not going to like fault them, but at the same time, I feel like, man, I really wish that there were more out there that I can really look at this and think, yes, this is you are my person. Like, this is my movie.
Right. And I just don't understand because I don't feel like for a lot of these movies, I feel like the appeal is already there. Like you don't need to have, maybe for La La Land, because that's more of like an indie, I can see wanting the big names and the stars. But
Right.
for a lot of these, they have an in fan base anyway. So I don't think
Correct.
you need to have these, you don't need to have Pierce Brosnan singing horribly in Mamma Mia. You know, you don't need to have Gerard Butler in Phantom of the Opera. Like, that's not,
Yeah.
I just don't understand when there's so many people who have played those parts on Broadway and who have really great voices that you could, why you
Who have,
would.
it goes back to the Mary Poppins, My Fair Lady kind of debate,
Yeah.
where, dang it, my mind just totally went blank as far as the two.
Yeah, because when they dub Audrey Hepburn,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, we talked about 3 movies in the class section that were dubbed. You have West Side Story, King and I, and
True.
and My Fair Lady, all by the same amazing woman. But you know, why don't we do that? Like La La Land would have been better, Mamma Mia would have been better, Beauty and the Beast would have been better, Phantom of the Opera would have been. There's so many that would have been so much better if they had just either dubbed or gotten different people to play their roles.
Yeah.
But what do I know?
I'm looking at like back when Julie Andrews, she was the one that made the role of My Fair Lady on Broadway. Right. Like she carved that and made it what it was, and it was just such a huge thing when they didn't cast her.
Yeah,
and it just made me super happy when she finally did make it into Mary Poppins, and then when she won the Golden Globe. No, it was the Golden Globe or something like that. She's like, I really wanted to thank the man who really made this all possible. And that was the guy who head of MGM. I was like, yes, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I look at people like her, and I want so much for those people who are doing so great on Broadway to be able to make it over to film.
Yeah.
It would make me so happy. Because that one, it is different. Film versus Broadway is completely different, but at the same time, I feel like it can be done. So
I totally think it can be done. And I mean, you've seen even on shows like Glee, you know, which went downhill, but they had a lot of Broadway performers, you know, in that show. And so you can make the transition and, you know, make it well and have good singing. Like even the show went downhill, it still had good singing. Like,
right.
Always the priority. And so I don't know, that's a frustrating thing for me about these modern musicals. And so I only have a couple, but the ones I did put on my list is I have Hairspray, which I know a lot of people don't like, but I think it's really fun. It's just so infectious and
got fun stuff.
Yeah. And then I have Sweeney Todd, actually. I
Really?
think it's very bloody, so it's not for everyone.
Right.
But I like Sondheim's, and I think that they do a pretty good job. Like, it's not perfect, but I think it's okay. I think Alan Rickman's really good in it. And I don't know. So I have Sweeney Todd and I have Into the Woods, which both of them feel a little bit of a reach, but anyway. Yeah.
Those weren't on my list.
I enjoyed them enough, I guess, to talk about them. I think that he's such a good lyricist that I don't know, that it works. But I don't really like the last part of Into the Woods isn't my favorite.
I feel like Into the Woods could have stopped halfway through and been great.
Yeah, if I could cut it off with Cinderella's Wedding, I think that's like,
I mean, that's how the movie was for me. I just like, can we just stop right now? This is fantastic. Just ending right here. Nope, you got to keep going. Okay. And so I get that. And I'm not going to say that I didn't enjoy some of the songs and some of the process, the story that came after the high moment, you know? And I think that was the main point of the fact. It was like, it goes up, but then it also comes down. Life is not all rainbows and whatnot. I
just feels so tonally dissonant from the whole rest of the thing, and it just makes all the characters kind of unlikable. And so I don't know. I like I said, I was reaching a little bit on this category, but yeah. And then there's a little one that I actually really like that I think is kind of underrated, is called The Last 5 Years. And
I liked that one, yes, but at
yeah,
the same time, I hated that guy. Like, I, if you haven't seen it, I would recommend it.
yeah,
It is a movie that I
good
like,
singing.
and I like the singing. I like the songs.
Yeah,
Um, the story was actually, I mean, how it was contrived and put together was actually really good.
yeah.
I mean, it was really,
Because
really
it
well
starts out
done.
with her at the end of the relationship and him with at the beginning of the relationship, and it works on stage because you see them on different sides of the stage.
Mhm.
But I thought that I was wondering how they were going to be able to pull it off, and I think they did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I thought they did a really good job. I watched it on Netflix, so I was like, cool.
Yeah.
But it was the only thing that I don't like about it is just the fact that he's a cheating son of a gun.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, I
Yeah.
do not approve. And so that's the only, I guess it's just kind of weird because he wrote it autobiographically, you know? And so I don't
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, I don't understand how he could have written that and then been okay with the fact of putting himself in such horrible light. You know? And I was just like, man, wow. I mean, I kind of see it because he's definitely I applaud him for being able to see it through her point of view, but at the same time, I just like I feel like he's kind of making excuses as
Mm,
well for his own little foibles. But
yeah.
anyway,
So, but yeah, that's all I
it is
was
something.
able to come up with as far as contemporary for me. What
Mhm.
did you have?
So my contemporary is kind of a guilty pleasure list. Um, and so I have Moulin Rouge. I have that CD. It's actually a 2-disc set,
Hmm.
and I have both discs, and I can sing you every single song in order from start to finish. I've seen that movie so many times, listened to that CD so many times. I just love it. And they tried to do again with Across the Universe. Wasn't a fan. Did
Oh,
not like.
I hate Across the Universe. Didn't like
But
that at all.
Moulin Rouge, I don't know what it was. I honestly have no idea what it was, but it was like, this is so good. I love it. My gift is my song, and this one's for you.
Yeah, that
Uh,
one has such color and such spectacle, and
it
I haven't
was.
seen it in years and years. But yeah, it definitely the music is the standout for sure. It's not one of those ones like some of the ones I mentioned where you're like, the music was okay, but
Well, and normally I am an absolute not a fan of movies that take contemporary songs
oh
and
yeah.
just like shoehorn them in. But I feel like this one was done so well in ways that it fit.
Hmm.
So it didn't feel shoehorned. And I guess that was the difference.
Was it
But
your strange magic? I think
oh my gosh,
uh,
just shoot me.
I guess
I
the trolls they had
You know
to.
what was funny though is what is his name? I forget. But there's this guy who's actually one of the voices for it. And I used to when I was living in Nashville, I worked at a retail business and he would come in all the time and
Uh-huh.
I would talk to him. He's actually on the show Nashville. Um
Okay.
let me see. Let me look it up. Strange Magic Cast. It's been a while since I talked to him, obviously. But I would talk to him, and when I heard that he was on it, I was so excited for him. I was like, "Ah, awesome! I'm gonna check you out and see how you do." And Sam Palladio, I'd never
It
pronounce.
sounds familiar, that name.
Anyway, so he's the voice of Roland, but
Oh, he's the bad guy.
yeah. So it was just really funny because
That's
I
funny.
was like, oh man, when I actually listened to it, I was like, dang it. Because
That's
it
funny.
was just that.
Yeah.
I feel like this movie was shoehorned. Now, if you would have done it in a way that made it not seem shoehorned
Yeah.
and like natural, then that's like, you're hitting in Moulin Rouge territory, which I'm
Right,
happy with.
right. Yeah,
But
and the script is so bad in that. But yeah, Moulin Rouge, it is a lot of fun. It's just it's got so much color and spectacle into it that some of the the content is sometimes a little much. The certain
It's
scenes for
racy.
me, but I'm like, fast forward.
Yeah, I mean it's racy, but like I don't know. I'm a horrible person, I
No,
guess.
I mean, I recommend Sweeney Todd. I mean, so, what else do you have on your list?
I have the Muppets,
Fun.
which came out in 2011, 10 or 11, somewhere in
Yeah.
there. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, wow, this is so charming.
Yeah.
And that was the only thing that I can really call it is charming. And I thought the whole thing is just a fun uplift, and I would definitely watch it again. The next one I have is Enchanted. I mean, how do you know he loves you? I didn't know until that movie. So
I love Enchanted too. The only thing is like, how do you have Idina Menzel in your musical and you not have her sing?
yeah.
But no, it's so charming. It's kind of I feel like it and Elf are kind of the same movie, but one is for a female character, one's for a
I
male
can see that.
character.
Yeah.
You know, there's sort of innocent storybook characters sent
Mm-hmm.
to New York kind of thing. But one of the cool things I think about Enchanted is that it's the only Disney princess-y movie where they have to kind of do any mothering and sort of be a more maternal character, which I like to see.
Yeah.
Kind of makes it unique, I think. And the relationship between her and the little girl is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And that making songs, you gotta love those.
Gotta love him. I mean, he knows his craft. That man does it well.
Yeah, a little working song.
Oh, so good.
So good choice. Those are good choices. Yeah, the only other one I thought I might mention, because it's borderline if it's a musical or not, is last year there was a movie called Sing Street that came out that I loved. I liked it way more than La La Land.
How many songs were in it?
It has, well, it's about a band. That's the only thing that makes it a little sort of fishy. But I think it has something like 7 songs that the band sings. But it's not like a musical in the sense that like they're walking down the street singing. They're like singing as part of the band.
Okay, yeah.
So good. The songs are so well written. It's so charming. The relationship between, because he wants to impress this girl, and so he tells her that he has this band, and so then he has to like form the band. And
Do the songs progress the plot line?
a little bit.
Or are they
Uh,
I like to think about it like this. Okay, there's a difference between a pop song and a musical song.
yeah.
So a pop song is kind of like a verb. No, it's an adjective.
Yeah.
Like happy, sad. It's like that's an adjective.
Yeah. It's
Musical is more of a verb.
it's
Going,
close to
doing.
similar to a little bit, maybe a little along the lines of like a Jersey Boys kind of a thing,
Okay.
but
Well, I love
not
Jersey Boys.
quite. They'd have to change it and retool it a little bit to make it a little more narrative for it to be. It's by the same director who did Once, which was also retooled into a Broadway musical,
Mhm.
but was also about 2 people in a band.
Okay.
So it's borderline. I think it does have just these original songs though that are just so catchy and wonderful, and just great characters, great story. And it was my second favorite movie. I saw 147 movies in 2016. It was my second favorite. So I loved it. Anyway, and it was absolute travesty that it didn't get a song, at least a song nomination at the Oscars. This is very,
Bummer.
very bitter about that. But anyway, so let's talk about the animated. This one should be really, really.
Wait, no,
fun.
I still have 2 more.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
No, the next one is Newsies, just because that takes me back.
Mm-hmm.
And then also with an asterisk, Les Mis.
Yeah.
So Les Mis is my absolute favorite musical of all time.
Me too.
And I've seen it on Broadway. I've seen it on off Broadway. I've seen it like all over the place. And so I can deal with 1 or 2 characters not being the absolute best, like the most ideal character, like
singer,
like person playing it. So I can deal with that because I feel like the content and the material itself is kind of surpasses that.
Yeah,
Like it just speaks for itself.
I
So
agree with you.
I love it for that reason. Um, that being said, we all know that there are a couple people in that one retelling that I was like, I wish that I would have, had this person as opposed to this person, but all all being good, I felt like it was an adequate rendition and
Yeah,
still something that will make me cry. So
yeah.
I still add that.
Me too. I'm the same way about Les Mis. I'm well aware of its flaws, particularly, Russell Crowe as Javert. And it's not only that he's a bad singer, but he's also pretty wooden in the role. And it's such a dynamic, interesting role that
Mhm.
that's a shame. And
Right.
he's probably the best villain I think ever written.
It
And
is
uh,
the most just like complex villain.
yeah, because he thinks he's doing the right thing
Mm-hmm.
up until the very, very end. And it's kind of your justice versus mercy kind of argument.
Right.
And
So
so yeah, I
complex.
love, like I said, Les Mis is one of the musicals that first like made me fall in love with music.
Mhm.
I love I love it, but yeah, and I do think that Anne Hathaway just crushes it. She's so good.
She did do a fantastic job.
She's really, really, she may not be like the greatest Fontaine ever who's sung the role, but I think she's good enough, and
Oh yeah.
she just sells it with just her emotion. I think is great, and I think Hugh Jackman is good as Jean Valjean.
Yeah. I mean, there's like I said, there's always everybody's always going to have their favorite whoever played that role.
Yeah,
And I am so glad that they got the girl who plays Eponine in
yeah,
this because she actually played it on Broadway and that
yeah,
made me so happy.
yeah. Me too. Me
I
too.
mean, I there was I'm not going to name names, but there was somebody that was supposed to play that role who I love as a singer and as a performer and as a recording artist, but was not at all okay with her being placed as
Yeah,
that role. So I was just really glad that they decided to change it and be like, yeah, let's go with,
yeah,
go with tried and true.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I'm totally on the same page with you with Les Mis, but I still can watch it and still love it, even though I know that it could have been a little bit better. But
Yeah.
oh well.
I
And
mean,
then what was
anything
the other
could have
one? Oh,
been a
Newsies.
little bit better, except
Newsies.
Mary Poppins.
Newsies. I actually think that they should remake Newsies
Well,
because
they did do the Broadway version.
and the Broadway musical is way better. They made it much better, and
I haven't seen it. I would still like
yeah,
to see.
you should see. I think they're actually putting it on DVD or something like that. Like they
Oh,
did.
right on.
Yeah, they did a Fathom Events thing last
Okay.
month, and I think they're going to be putting that on DVD, so you can buy like the Broadway um, touring or whatever of it. But I really enjoyed it, and I saw it at the touring company here in Utah, and they took out most of the adult stuff,
Right.
which is the part that doesn't work at all, really. I mean, they just have a minimal amount of Pilter in the Broadway musical, and like his in the Anne Margaret songs is really bad in the movie, but I think it's charming. I love the heck out of Newsies. I'm totally with you there. I really
Yeah. Okay. I'm looking it up. Released February 16th of this year. They did a Fathom Events in cinemas.
something like that. Yeah, yeah,
I wish they would. I hope they put that out on Netflix
yeah.
ASAP.
But I just think it'd be perfect for a remake because people love it, and
Mm-hmm.
it just had this Tony Award winning revival or whatever on whatever you call it on Broadway. So perfect time to like get a new cast, and you could have Kenny Ortega do it because he's great, and I have a soft spot in my heart for Kenny Ortega. For I know a lot of people really hate like High School Musical movies and stuff like that he does, but I think they're charming. I think they're fun. I get a kick out of them, and so I think you could get him back and do something really fun.
It's just too bad we can't get Christian Bale anymore. Oh.
Yeah.
It would
Maybe
be
you
an
can
entirely different movie at this point.
you can play Pilcher. So good. That's a good choice for contemporary. All right. Well, let's talk about animated.
This one was a very difficult box to fill.
Yeah. Well, I'll do mine first because I know what you're doing, and then we can talk about yours in more detail. So I have on mine, I have Beauty and the Beast, I have Frozen, Cinderella, Jungle Book, Hercules, and Moana.
All good ones.
Yeah.
All fantastic ones right there.
So yeah. So yeah, I mean, for me, Frozen is I know there's a lot of Frozen haters out there, but to me, Frozen was the first like real Broadway-esque musical that they ever did. Like they have a lot of classical style, but this was the first like belt Broadway musical where they were really sort of talking, singing, and the way, like, I particularly love For the First Time in Forever reprise when Anna and Elsa are talking. She's saying, we can work this out together. We can, and they go back and forth and back and forth. Yeah. I think that is so good and it just builds tension so well. And I just love all of the singing in Frozen. I think it's just top notch. And I a lot of people are sick of it. I don't care. I love it. And, Beauty and the Beast is so great. You have Menken, Howard Ashman. It was basically he wrote it on his deathbed and he died before it came out. And so I think you have this sense of heart and emotion to the lyrics and to the music that is just amazing. And Cinderella, I actually really love the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boo and A Dream Is a Wish Your Heart Makes. I love it. And Jungle Book is just so much fun with those great songs from the Sherman Brothers. And Hercules is just so different and weird that I like it. I love the songs.
From the mountain top.
Yeah. And then Moana, I just love it more and more the more I listen to it. I love the songs. So
you did a lot more of the contemporaries than I did. I guess, I really enjoyed Moana. I really enjoyed Frozen. And I can still think of both of those. Every one of the ones on your list, I was just like, so good.
Well, I mean, I knew what you had on your list.
Right.
So that's also part of it.
Right. I mean, they're so good. But like I said, this is a very difficult box for me to fill. I guess for me, Frozen, I still love, and I will love, I'm sure, forever. And it, like, the only thing is, I guess for me personally, I was so on the Frozen train for so long that I just kind of got like, I kind of Frozen fatigue. And so it's not that I don't like it anymore or anything like that, which is completely not the case. I'm really excited about the Broadway. I really want to go to it. And I'm really hoping to see certain things. And I can't wait to see if those certain things are in it. Like, I would love to see a reprise of Reindeer Are Better Than People.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be awesome if they came back and they filled out that character more, and just they filled out all of these characters just a tiny bit more. I feel like it would be just so great.
Yeah. And I'm actually excited for a sequel because I feel like with two sisters and their relationship really just kind of starting, I feel like there's so much that you could do and so much that they could go with it. It's not like Beauty and the Beast where a sequel is insane because it's done. The story's done.
Right.
There's no more story. Where it's like, I don't know. I feel like there's not as much sort of story at the end of Tangled or at the end of, like, these stories are kind of, there's more of a finish point where I feel like there's a real sense of, with Frozen, of this is just the start of things.
That's true.
So I'm really looking forward to it.
I have all good hopes for the coming with that one.
Yeah.
Moana also, it was quite different. The fact that you had Lin-Manuel Miranda on it. So and it was such his style that I've come to really appreciate his style recently. Um, so I'm all for those.
Yeah.
So my list is gonna go back to more of like the classics of the 90s, I guess.
Mhm.
Because these are still albums that I will listen to. And I still want to think, oh, I want to listen to that. And like recently in the last 2 months, I've been like, I want to listen to that.
Mhm.
um First one is Prince of Egypt. I feel like that
Oh,
one is timeless. I feel like it has so much heart and has so much depth that I can honestly go back and listen to it over and over. Hunchback of Notre Dame, I never appreciated it as a kid until I watched it when I was like in my teens, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. I mean, Steven Schwartz did both of those. And so I think
yeah.
I am a huge Steven Schwartz fan. I I've I have a dream to one day interview him. One of these days, he
Oh,
will
that would be so
be.
cool.
um, and so those two are just fantastic. And then I have another guilty pleasure is Anastasia. I am so excited that that finally got to Broadway,
Yeah.
and I cannot wait to listen to the live action or the Broadway version. I haven't yet, but I
Yeah,
have
me
been
too.
listening to a couple different things that have been popping up here and there. So I'm excited for that. And I think the first Liz Calloway does just a fantastic job on everything that she ever does. So, just leave it to her. Um, and then Little Mermaid, just because it was the start, and I feel like I can listen to that album over and over,
Yeah.
and I can listening to the album and the score is synonymous with watching the movie.
People are probably like, they thought had gone nuts because I didn't have Little Mermaid on my list, because Little Mermaid's one of my favorite movies. It's in my top 5 of all time, and when it was the first real like impactful movie of my childhood. Like I'm sure I saw other movies before that, but it's the one I vividly remember seeing it in the theater. I went to the Villa Theater where they have this they had this balcony,
Mm-hmm.
so it was a really nice theater, and seeing the Little Mermaid. And my sister and I were like obsessed. If you ask my brother uh, about Little Mermaid, he will roll his eyes. It would be like, oh, Little Mermaid, because it really we were for like 3 years we were just in love with everything Little Mermaid. We would have competitions between us
Yeah.
because we shared a room about who sounded the most like Ariel. And I feel somewhat protective over it because I feel like a lot of the criticisms that are thrown at Little Mermaid are really unfair. That you hear people say, well, she gave up her being a mermaid for a man. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Because she was singing about wanting to be part of their world before she even met him. That,
Yeah.
that song comes up before she even meets Eric, and then she saves his life, which is going to be like super impactful. And
Well, I
so I
also
don't know.
think, have you listened to our episode on the Animation Addicts podcast where we interviewed Glenn Keane?
It sounds. I think I have, but it's been a while, so
You
you
should
have
go
to
back and
refresh me.
listen to that one because it's just, I mean, that one really opened my eyes even more to
Yeah.
loving this because he was the one who did Ariel. And he said one of his main things is he always, any character that he does, he wants to have a sense of destiny
Hmm.
added to it. And he said, it's just so, I'm a spiritual person, I'm a religious person. And I loved how he's a known Christian, and he talked about how the main idea that he had for Ariel and her acting and like her being was someone who is always looking up, always wanting to be better than who she is, better than where she is, and to be able to be up there in a world that she hasn't quite gotten there yet. And it's just like, as a Christian, you can look at that as like, I want to be able to go to heaven in
Hmm.
the end. That is my goal, is to be a better person, a changed person, to be somebody who is able to do these things that I'm not able to do right now. And that is the only way to do that is by, changing.
Hmm.
And so I
Yeah.
thought that was, it really blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so
Well,
cool.
I mean, and we live in a world where, we've embraced sort of um, uh, the idea of your
It's just me. It's just who I am.
yeah, like we've embraced, sort of, yeah, being who you are, whether you're LGBT or whatever it is, that you be who you are. And I think that Ariel in a lot of ways carries that kind of banner with her. She just knows where she belongs. I mean, you don't have a grotto full of all of those things if it's not something that's really a part of you, and that you really, it's not just some sort of floating fancy. And how great is Ursula? I mean, she's so wonderful. She's so hilarious. Such a great villain. And just the amazing sequences like Under the Sea, so great.
Mhm.
So yeah, I love Little Mermaid so much. Part of Your World is just like the best song ever.
Mhm.
So, but yeah, so your other picks, the Prince of Egypt. I actually just did an interesting podcast on Monday with a friend of mine named Darren, who's studying to become an animator, and we were actually comparing Moana to Prince of Egypt.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's random, but but the I as much as I love Moana, I would pick Prince of Egypt because I just think that movie does such an amazing job of being epic and big at the same time of being very reverent. And
Yeah.
I think that they capture that better than any of the other Moses stories, whether it's Ten Commandments or Exodus, Gods and Kings, or any of the other versions that I've ever seen. And I love the music. The
It's
only, except for Playing with the Big Boys Now, that's the
oh
only
yeah.
song that I wish they could take away.
It's reverent but also personal.
Yes, it's intimate. Like you feel that sense of Ramses really struggling with the idea of being the weak link and how that
Mhm.
just eats at his pride. And
And the having this brother, two brothers
mhm,
talking to each other. Hey, we grew up together. We were
yeah.
family, and now you're doing this. It's so complex how they
Mhm.
did it, and they just really outdid themselves. It's one of my absolute favorite movies of all time, too.
Yeah. I love it too. It's in my top 10 favorite animated films of all time. And so I agree with you there. I mean, I have little tiny, like Big Boys, Playing with the Big Boys Now, and a couple of the voice casts sound maybe a little bit too modern. But
Mhm.
other than that, I love it.
Yeah.
I do. And then Hunchback of Notre Dame, I do love the music, a lot of the music. I'm not a huge fan of it, but the music was really nice, and it was certainly a bold film for them to try to do and try to take on for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I can see why you love it. Um, so yeah,
And then my last one was Lion King.
Lion King. Okay, yeah, Lion King. I have little problems with how they handled some of the music. Like, I really don't like the way they make. I feel like they kind of ruin "Can You Feel the Love Tonight" with that like
I
silly introduction.
Yeah, I honestly, when I think of Lion King, I think of Hans Zimmer. I don't
Oh,
normally think of the actual songs though. Like I
yeah.
just think of Hans Zimmer's score as being one of the most epic of all time.
Well, and I think his score is also great in Prince of Egypt. I love
Yes. Yeah.
the
I
score in there.
mean, Hans Zimmer is just the man.
And it was so refreshing to watch because I watched both these movies fairly recently, and it was so refreshing because I'm so used to Hans Zimmer now in the now that he's become like the superhero movie guy, and in my opinion, all of his scores sound exactly the same lately.
Oh, yeah.
It's very like dung dung, like and you could just interplace his score for Interstellar, The Dark Knight Rises, the Batman v Superman. I'm just like, I'm tired of that. And So it was refreshing to go back and watch Prince of Egypt and be like, oh, there you go. That's a different score.
Well,
But
I mean, he's also working with the actual music that goes along with those. So
yeah,
he
that's fair.
he has to, when he goes into a movie that already has set up music and set up songs and melodies, he's got so much more to work with,
Yeah.
and it
But
can just
he can
grow.
do fun stuff too. Like he did I wasn't a big fan of the Boss Baby, but he does the score for the
Oh,
Boss
really?
Baby. Yeah. And for
For
Kung Fu
him.
Panda 3, he did that. So
Yeah,
he's a man
also
of
good
many
movie.
talents. That's for
Hmm.
sure. But yeah, no, I mean, I do love the Lion King. I mean, it's great. I like when my favorite moment of the Lion King is when Simba, was looking at his reflection, and Rafiki says, you see, he lives in you. I love that
That
moment.
you
That
always
gets
be there for
me every
me. But you're not.
time.
Because of me. Because of
Yeah.
me.
That is so good. So good. And yeah, so they're remaking that. Yeah, I'm sure
Can
you're
I,
super.
oh my gosh. Well, here's the thing. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I hang out with a lot of people that are younger as well.
Mhm.
So like in their 19s and 20s, And
Mhm.
I was talking to some of them, and they're like, "Yeah, I've never seen Lion King." And I'm like,
What?
I was just like, my heart hurt. It
Yeah.
hurt so bad. I was like, "No, you were deprived. That's what you were." No.
Yeah, it bums me out because I feel like even if these movies are good or decent, and some of them have been, I feel like the way that Disney promotes them and the way that Disney uh, packages them is 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 as if they are upgrades
Yeah,
to the original, and that really bothers me.
that
I
does
really,
bother me too. I can see that.
yeah, like why not? Like for instance, when Mad Max Fury Road came out, you didn't see George Miller and stuff being like, "Look at how much better this is than the previous Mad Maxes." They just sold it as its own unique thing.
Yeah.
I don't understand why we can't do that. Like with Disney, like why they they insist upon, like it really bummed me out with Beauty and the Beast. They have in one of the advertisements in big bold letters, better than the original. I'm just like,
I remember you doing an article on the Road Discover's website about that, and everyone was like, "Yes, speak it,
yeah,
truth, sister."
yeah. Then and Bill Connon saying that oh, they finally have the technology to realize their vision. And then that was his reason for justifying remaking the movie. It's like, you need better than that. Like, why
Just
not?
say it like it is. You want to make money,
Yeah, or like, I
and
think
people will buy it, and
yeah,
yeah, we will. That's enough.
like it would be a better reason to be like to talk about what you were just said, that we want to encourage people to watch the old movies and give them a new updated retelling. Like that's one thing, but to say that, oh, it's the technology, like, oh man, they did perfectly well with the technology in
Yeah,
1990. But
yeah.
anyway, so that's what we've got. A lot of people would probably mention Aladdin. I'm not as high on Aladdin. I certainly love it, but it's not in my top 10 Disney like it is for some people.
It would
I
be
think
for me top 10.
what's that?
It would be in my top
It would
10.
be in your top 10. I think if you take out Robin Williams, which is a big takeout, but I just
How do you
think he
take that
makes
out?
that. Yeah, I think he makes that movie.
It is his movie. Like,
That Aladdin and Jasmine are a little bland.
but it works because you've got the genie. It's his
Oh
movie.
yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, I do love it, but for me, it ended up in a 21st spot in my ranking.
Okay.
But yeah, he's great. I mean, he's probably, even though it was 21st in my ranking, he's probably my in my top 5 favorite characters of any
Okay.
film. So But yeah, so it's interesting, and you know, there's so many other great Disney musicals. I mean, I even thought of Pinocchio, which you know you don't really think of as a musical, but When You Wish Upon a Star is still my favorite Disney song they've ever done. I love that song, and um, there's just so many good ones. I'm not a big Pocahontas fan, but I do love the music.
Yeah,
very pretty in there. So I love Tangled. I know a lot of people don't really like the music in Tangled that much,
no,
but
I love Tangled.
I still really like it.
I don't have as much of an affinity with Tangled only because I've only ever seen it a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the problems with getting old. Is that, like, you know, back in the day you just had like a couple VHSs, you know, and that one was just on repeat. And as you get older, you just have so many more options. And especially because of, you know, doing podcasting about it, I have to watch so many others that I don't have the time.
Yeah. Well, I have the same problem too, because I like want to go back and rewatch things. But part of that problem too is that there's just so many more movies that are out now than there used to be. Like, I was looking at in the 1980s, there were whole years where you didn't get a single animated film.
Right.
Like it was like 1984 and like 87, I think. And can you even imagine?
Yeah, it's crazy. But you look at how fast technology has made it so people can do these things so easily.
I mean, last year there were something like 27, if you include indies, and there were and we so it's just so different because like I don't think that people could. You look at the difference between like the response. Even though I think a lot of people love Moana and a lot of girls love Moana, which is really gratifying to see, it's just not the same as what happened with Little Mermaid, because again, I had 3 years to be like obsessed with that movie before Beauty and the Beast came out. And there's just nothing like that kind of sort of, I just feel like, you know, before the end of the month, you have another kind of big animated release for them to get into and think about and talk about and stuff like that. It's just not quite the same as it was when went back in the day when we were little.
Yeah. Back in my day.
And I mean that's just true for every genre, every type of movie. There's just so many movies. It's really amazing. And I am hopeful though that, because a lot of people were saying, one of the things that annoyed me about La La Land is a lot of people were saying it's the savior of the musical, and I'm like, no. Frozen was
it's just the most like current.
Yeah, like it just, to me it just shows that people don't value animation, because we've had Frozen. It was one of the biggest movies of all time, not that long ago, and Moana just last year. And so anyway, but I do hope that we can get some live action I hope that the movies that La La Land inspires will be even better than La La Land.
Yeah.
And that would be really cool. I would love I do love Stephen Sondheim. He's just so different and creative and weird, and he has a musical called Company that I love, and I would think that a La La Landish approach to Company would be amazing. So that's what I'm kind of hoping for.
Nice.
In the future. But anyway, so yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I am disappointed to hear that Gigantic now has been pushed back 2 years.
I am disappointed in that as well.
Yeah. But oh well, hopefully they'll make it even better. But anyway, so
yeah, I mean, an interesting thing, I went and I got to tour the animation studio, and so Disney Animation Studio, I was touring around, and as I was walking around, I actually saw they have a big meeting room, and you could see on the big monitor above, it just had like the picture of Gigantic. And so it was gigantic story meeting that was going on right then.
Oh, wow.
I was like, oh, that's so exciting. And then it wasn't more than like not long later that they announced that it was going to be pushed back. So I was like, okay, well, I am glad when they are able to recognize that this is not going to hold a candle to what it could be.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to push it to a point so that it gives us enough time so that it can like the process can help it move
Yeah.
forward.
I mean, because
So,
I've heard some people claim that, it wasn't a story problem. There's no way. You don't delay something by 2 years if there's not significant problems. That's a long time to delay something. 2 years. I don't think Good Dinosaur was even delayed that long. So,
I
yeah,
think it
there's
was only put
no.
a year. But I mean, you look at
No.
all the other movies that they have putting out right now.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got Wreck-It Ralph 2, and then coming out after that is Frozen 2.
Right.
And then like, okay.
And
I understand why they want to put Frozen 2 out before that, because they still have to ride that Frozen train.
mm-hmm.
You know, they
And it's the same composers, isn't it? Isn't it the Lopez's doing both?
I don't know for sure because I heard some back and forth. But I was assuming.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not exactly sure, but I'll hope.
Well, another one that I would love to see is, and I'm thinking we might get it, is there's a show on Disney Channel called Elena of Avalor, and it's good, and the songs are good. They have good vocal talent, and they're good songs. And there's a Disney Tunes, Untitled Disney Tunes project for 2019, I think. Can't remember, but anyway, I have to believe that's gonna be Elena of Avalor movie, because she's such a popular character at the parks, and the show's so popular that you've got to think they've got to make her a movie one of these days. So that would be really fun, because they really do have very good songs.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, well, thanks so much for joining me with this, talk about these great musicals. It made me want to.
No, thank you for having me.
Made me want to sit down and watch some of them again.
I know. Yeah, I want to look that one up again.
Yeah. So, where can people find you and find more about your music and the other things?
Yeah, please check out chelsearobson.com. And on there you can find, I have all the videos that I'm going to be posting will be posted on my website, as well as a place where you can look at my Patreon. And if you want, I'm also at the $5 level for Patreon. It also includes behind the scenes making of podcasts that will be going out to all of those patrons as well. So those are fun things that I've been really working on recently, as putting together all of those podcasts as well as putting out the videos themselves. And so I've just been really busy working on that. So it's been fun though, being able to have that. And if you want to talk more about animated movies, you can head on over to rotoscopers.com, and you can find us everywhere on social media with that one.
Yeah.
Anywhere on social media with Chelsea Robson, you'll find me. Anywhere on social media with Rotoscopers, you'll find parts of me. And so those
you guys have Fantasia 2000 coming up next, correct?
Yes, Fantasia 2000 is our next episode that comes out on the 19th, and I have it all ready to go, and it's all shoot fire and bam, let's go.
Cool.
So we're excited about that.
Oh, that'll be great. That'll be great. Yeah, you can find me at Smiling LDS Girl on most social media, and we are going to be doing some fun podcasts coming up this weekend here. I'm going to be talking tomorrow about the latest episode of Doctor Who with Jonathan North, a fellow rotoscoper. And then also I am going to be doing recaps or talking about the new Anna Green Gables series on Netflix that starts tomorrow.
Interesting.
So that will be really fun.
That's hard for me to give up the original.
I know. So it'll be interesting. I've heard nothing but good things about it because it aired in Canada previous to,
of course, it did,
airing here. Yeah, and
they would.
I know. So it's gonna be a lot of fun, and so we're gonna talk about that. And so yeah, and you can find me at my blog, 54 Disney Reviews. And so thanks so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
Love it. So much fun.